All right. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to this edition of Turnaround Marriage Live. We're so glad to have anybody out there joining us tonight. We're here with this incredible couple, and we're going to share just a little bit about Ryan and Elise. But in the meantime, Ryan and Elise, just give us a hello real quick.
Hey, guys.
How's it going?
Good evening. Awesome.
Thanks, everybody who's joining us live and on the replay. We want to welcome you. We are Scott and Rachel. We help committed Christian couples finally end the cycles of conflict, negativity, and disconnection and reclaim the love, passion, and playfulness that they once had. So we're super glad you're joining us. If tonight you are out there feeling hopeless in your marriage, if your marriage is in a place of struggling, if you're looking for some hope, if you want to hear a story of going from hopeless to hopeful, we want you to join in and hear from Ryan and Elise. You guys are like the coolest people we've ever had. Okay, like literally, let's just talk about your beard for a second and just say, look at the beard, look at Elisa's hair. I mean, you're just cool cats, right? and Beth is watching. Hey, Beth. So yeah, let's talk about why they're amazing.
Yeah, no doubt. You guys totally rocked it. You guys showed up like you said you would, coachable, committed, resourceful, and you guys got an amazing outcome because of who you are and the way that you showed up to dive in. I just want to share a little bit about Ryan. Ryan is an incredible leader. He is a church planter of Catalyst Church in Canyon City, Colorado. If you're in that area, you got to check out that church. God is on the move. They're just celebrated 5 years at that church that they planted it, and it's blowing up. God is using it and using it in their community in a big way. And so you guys definitely got to check that out. Ryan is doing an awesome job there. And Elise has an incredible heart of service and of care and insight in people. And she is God's helpmate for him. They're an amazing team. And we're just blessed to have you guys tonight. So good evening, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right.
Thank you guys so much for, first of all, being generous with your time and being just open with your story. That's one of the things we love about you is your transparency and just how real you were. And so just let's talk about where you were maybe 3 months ago when it was right before the holidays, one of your probably busiest times in your ministry, right? Yeah. And things were not going great at home. Can you tell us a little bit about the place where you guys were at?
Yeah, we definitely kind of it seems like the wheels fell off, if you will. You're right there around the holidays was kind of the time where it got to a point just really at the beginning of November where we were like, okay, we got to do something. And it had been festering for a while, and I think for us, the biggest thing was lack of communication. I think for me, a lot of it was being distracted, oftentimes with the work of even with the work of the ministry, which is a real challenge. I think for ministry couples is even good things can be a distraction for better things, right? Mm-hmm. And I think we got to that point. I think that's going to be something that's going to continue to be something for us to be aware of and really have on our radar is to make sure that our work for God doesn't replace God's work in us and in our marriage. And so, but we got there and yeah, it was not good. We were kind of at odds and Elise didn't feel like I was valuing her as much as I valued other things that I would sometimes choose over intentional time with her. And it just got to a bad place.
I call it, calloused. That's the word. It keeps coming to my head. Like the same old kept happening for so long that I got to the place where I was just like, I don't care. I'm done. Like I'm totally calloused. None of this, like nothing's going to change. And here we are. And this is awful. And I'm done. I'm calloused. So that's kind of where, we landed. And I realized something has to give, something has to change because you can't continue living calloused and really not caring at all. You will not win. So that's really where we were. And I think it was that one night, it was just like, you better figure something out. You figure some sort of a counseling or something like that, because we're not going to make it. So it was kind of one of those moments where, the reality of the road that we were heading down and that was just our norm was not going to last much longer. So
Mm.
it was the next day, actually, that he jumped online and he said, we have a phone call with some people. And I said,
Some people, that's for sure.
So yeah, that dark night of the soul was
Yeah.
like, something's got to give. That, and I know, because of the years in ministry that we have been in, when your marriage is not right, and here you are trying to lead a ministry, and
You're
in fact,
pouring
probably
out,
counseling
pouring out.
other people,
Yeah.
and yet you can't get it right. And it's like that. I know we felt so incongruent and so yucky. I don't know, like, can you talk about that? Like being able to serve other people, but then how hard it is at home. Like, why does it have to be like that? How did that feel for you guys?
Exhausting, because you, in a sense, you're speaking out of what you know to be true, but what's in here to give out of experience is sometimes lacking. And so it's easy to say, you can say all the right things, you can even go and point out biblically, this is right, this is what you should be doing, but it's painful to be teaching those things when in your heart that, like, your heart's in a different place. And so you're operating out of alignment, completely out of alignment, which is damaging, just to what it does inside of you, because you feel it too. Like for me, like I definitely feel it going, like, get off of the platform, and like I don't doubt that God can still use me in my jacked up nature. That's what He does with people, because we're all jacked up, right? But at the end of the day, going, man, like I think the words could be so much powerful if it was backed by action, and it's shameful to get to that place in your life, but we've seen in our past, and we've seen in our present, the redemptive nature of God's work in our situation, and so it's cool to see how He just kind of steps in and uses you despite your sinful nature. So
Amen. Elise, I wonder if you would share just about that moment when you were talking with your son when things were not so good, where it also became very clear that, wow, we've got to be all in to get this thing fixed.
Yeah, it was pretty, we were at our worst in those moments. So we've been married 16 and a half years. And those were definitely, just the last, starting in November was really probably the worst that we've ever been. And so we have a 13, a 14, and a 10-year-old, and they felt it. And, we did everything we could to try to at least not bring them in on it. So maybe they didn't know details, but they knew we weren't good. They didn't hear the arguments or the fights, maybe. Maybe they did, I don't know. But they felt it. And so it was one evening, I think we were like week 1, maybe, starting the program.
Yeah,
something like
within
that.
the first couple of weeks. Yeah.
And our oldest son, he came to us and he said, in tears, he said, I need to talk to you guys. And I was like, oh crap, like, what's going on? But I can't talk to you guys together. And I was just like, okay. So he went and took Ryan in the other room, and anyway, they ended up coming out, and he just said, I'm afraid that my parents are not going to stay together, and I'm afraid, I can tell things aren't good, and I didn't feel like I could talk to you guys together because I felt like I'm already having to pick sides of which parent whose side I'm going to be on, basically, is why he couldn't tell us together, because he felt that, without even hearing, but knowing. You don't have to say anything, they feel it. And so that was definitely eye-opening for us. And then at the same time, I was like, what a perfect timing that he would come to us and talk to us about this, because we were really wrestling with not wanting to cover the struggle that is relationships and marriage, because they are a struggle and they're not perfect. So struggling, trying to figure out how to tell them that we were working on things without them being scared, but you know what I mean? So, he brought it up himself. And so that kind of opened that door to be able to say to him, I'm sorry that you felt that, and we understand that you have, but guess what we're doing right now? We're in the process of working through that, and, able to share with him, that someday in your own marriage, you were going to deal with trial, and you're going to deal with things not being always good. And that's a normal part of a relationship, but
Right.
what are you going to do to get to the other side of it? And so, our children have got to watch us go from that place where they all noticed to a place where we are just functioning better as a family, as a unit. Like our kids, you tend to take on the attitude of the worst person in the room at the moment, and if we're not good, they come in and they're not good, and it just brings everybody down. And so our family dynamic was really suffering, and we didn't really realize it until here we are, 3 or so months later, and our family dynamic is so much better. I mean, like, we're happy and nobody's taking on each other's ugliness because we're all in a really good place. And so didn't really realize, you didn't realize it until you're on the other side and you go, oh my gosh, like,
Elise, there's so much good stuff in what you just said, because
There's a ton. Yeah.
first of all, that you raised a son that's brave enough to come to his parents and say, I'm scared.
Yeah.
Like what kind of a kid? That's an awesome, strong kid to say, like, things are not right, and I'm brave enough that I'm going to make sure I at least speak up. I mean, you have raised like incredible kids. And so I first of all love that. And then I also love that you were able to then be open and use it as a teaching moment and say, guess what? Relationships can be challenging, but we don't just stay here. We do something, and we are taking action right now. Yeah. And you use it as that teaching tool to say, like, when challenges come, like, you figure out a way and you don't just throw it away because it gets hard. And so it's just like the kind of parents you are, and the family that you're raising. It speaks volumes, because you don't waste it, and that's what we love about our God. He doesn't waste our pain. He will redeem it if we will let him. Yeah. And so I just love that. So are we gonna now? Yeah.
So let's transition, guys. And then we started diving in, and you guys really did go full gusto. You did the work, and there was slightly a busy season, a little bit, Christmas, So what does a pastor do at Christmas time? Not much, right?
No. On Sundays, so we're
exactly. You guys had 6 days a week. Yeah. What else you got to do?
Yeah.
So, and even in the midst of the busyness, you guys dove in, you did the work, and you really leaned into God, leaned into each other, leaned into doing that work. And I'm wondering, when we first started off, is it fair to say that you were a little bit on the skeptical side, that we're just met these people, Scott and Rachel, it sounds good, but is this going to work for us? Where were you guys?
Yeah, I think starting is the hardest part. With anything you do, whether it's going to a gym or taking on a new hobby or working on a marriage or whatever it is, I think getting started and just diving, like, that's the hardest part, because it is scary, and you, on a certain level, you feel shame, because you're like, how did we get here? And I think for a lot of people, when they feel that shame, then they feel guilty, and but for us, like, I think we're in a place where we both have the spirit of discernment, where we were just going, okay, no, this is like a holy conviction. We shouldn't feel shame about this, like, that we need help. Like, if something else was broken or something else was not operating correctly, we would take it and get it worked on, get it fixed, right? If it was our vehicle, or if it was anything else, like, we would correct that. So why not this? And why not strengthen our story, strengthen our testimony, that we can be able to help others? And so, but yeah, I mean, starting out was a little bit rough, just going, okay, this is new, it's foreign, it's there's so many different things out there, different kinds of things that you can do to work on your marriage and things like that. And honestly, something that I haven't shared with anybody is, the night that she kind of dropped that on me, that, listen, you need to figure something out, or we're not going to make it, type of a thing. Like, I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist, but, like, I hopped on the computer, like, she walked out of the room, I went to my default, like, trying to just, like, get away from all the the craziness, and just drown my sorrows in Facebook. And I hopped on Facebook, And I kid you not, like, you can't make this up for Hollywood. As I'm just scrolling through Facebook minutes after she had that conversation, an ad popped up for Turnaround Marriage on the Facebook feed. And so it was almost like going, okay, do something, right? And so I was like,
That's a God thing.
okay. So I clicked on it and filled out the email thing and just kind of went from there. But because I was determined to go, oh, it's kind of the same old. Oh, this will go away. If I give it enough silence, if I give it enough time, if I disconnect enough, it'll go away. Knowing that's not the case at all. But after she left the room, I had resigned to the fact that I would do what I always did and just ignore it, and it would go away. And literally within minutes, I had this ad pop up for Turnaround Marriage. And so it was kind of right there in front of me. And so we started the process. And yeah, starting is hard, but so worth it. When you blow past it on the other end and you can look back and go, oh my goodness, how was I operating in that kind of a toxic way? But then you realize things about yourself as you go through the modules and as you dive deeper and you realize things and you go, oh my good, I can see how I was doing that. It was stupid, but so anyway, I
think for me, I wasn't skeptical. It was just like, it was that bottom of the barrel. Something has to happen. Like there's got to be steps made. And so for me, the fact that there was a step made, that Facebook showed up, God showed up through Facebook. And so that for me was a step of hope. I thought, okay, well, we've made one step towards, we've got to do something different. And so for me, I was not skeptical at all. I was just so grateful that there was this much effort given. And so diving into it, I mean, like, I wasn't skeptical about anything, but what I was so grateful for was, and when I talk to people all the time about when you need to get some help, some sort of a counseling or something, you need to make sure that it is Christian based, because the world is going to tell you something very different.
Yes.
And you have got to make sure that whoever is pouring into you and talking to you and sharing with you lines up with what God is saying, because most of the time it does not. And it makes sense. The world stuff makes sense, And so when we started diving into this stuff and I realized how biblical based it was, I was just like, okay, this is exactly what everybody needs to be doing. If you consider yourself a Christian and you want to live a life that is honoring to God, and you want your marriage and your own personal life, and that's important to you, this is the kind of thing you should be doing. Because this is not just let us work on you and it is here's stuff that you need to work on with yourself. And this is what the Bible says, and this is what God says. And if every program, every counseling, every whatever could be that drenched in gospel, we would all be in a better place. And so for me, I was just like, this is good. This is good. This is what Christian couples need.
Amen. Awesome. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, God's written the manual, right? I mean, he's the one who designed the thing, and if we could show up and do it his way, and so that's really how we did design it. We're like, okay, what? Yeah. So thank you for saying that, because that's exactly what we were going for. Because God is so good to show us the way. And when we can own our sin and we can show up the way he's called us to, and our highest identity, the one that he's redeemed, it's like, how can your marriage, you can't stay stuck. You can't. I mean, you literally can't.
It's true.
So do you guys remember maybe like the first thing that Scott had you do?
It was the 10 reasons to fight for your marriage. And that actually, I think that's what actually spurred our son on to actually have a serious conversation with us, is because he saw those lists in our bathroom, and he was terrified. He's like, wait, they're having to fight? Wait, I mean, and so yeah, that was the first thing that we did. And it was really, I'm a very personable person. And so the thought of doing something online and phone calls and never seeing somebody in person, that was my only skeptical moment, because I thought, that's weird. Like I want to see somebody. I want to be face to face. I want to, but it really wasn't as a disconnect as I thought maybe it would be. And it just kind of opens a door for people from all over to be a part, to come together and do something together. And, the Thursday night calls with a whole group of people from all over the place coming together is a pretty cool dynamic that you're not going to get anywhere else. And so anyway, say all that to say it wasn't as weird as I thought, that we needed, this face-to-face personal connection kind of thing. So that was good.
That's so cool. I love that. I'm curious, guys, because you did dive in right away, and you were so teachable too. Like when things would be maybe a little different than how you thought about them, or we asked you to do something a little out of the ordinary, you definitely did it. And is it fair to say that once you guys started rolling the first couple of weeks, that you started to see things start to change right away?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. For sure. I think for me, one of the things that I looked at that I was kind of like, oh man, I don't know about this, was the superhero thing. But as I started going through that and crafting that, like it lit some areas up in my life that I was not expecting to happen, and really held some significant meaning for me. And so that was kind of a cool moment for sure.
Yeah. I see Natalia's asking you guys and us, basically, my husband's in the same position that your wife was in. What can I do to help if he's not wanting to speak with someone right now? And my husband may be unteachable at first and been going through a struggle for a while. So Ryan and Elise, what would you guys say to Natalia, who's wondering where her husband might be?
So he's unteachable. Is that what she was saying?
Yeah.
He doesn't want to speak to anybody right now.
Okay. I would say that the coolest thing about doing the modules, and there's separate readings and things for men and women. I think the coolest thing about that is that we are called to focus on us, and we are called to work on us. And our job is not to fix our spouse, but our job is to become a better Christian version of ourselves. And so there's nothing that you can do at the moment right now for him other than bathe him in prayer. But the best thing that you could do is to be working on all of those areas that God wants to work on in you, because once your husband hopefully sees that change within you, the prayer is that he will want that change and desire that change as well. So, I would say focus on working on you and fixing the things in you that you need to work on, because it's a two-way street. Both of us messed up. Both of you have messed up, and both of us have to work on ourselves individually. And so I would say that's where you're at right now. And so don't be looking at him and all of the things that he needs to fix, because that's not your job. But to be just completely and 100% committed to becoming a better version of you, and having better tools on how to deal with conflict and to see him in a different light.
And I'll stack on that as the man from that perspective. Like when you see something different, when I see something different in Elise, and when I see her giving effort in that way, and really focusing, in my mind, it's focusing on me. Now she's focusing on her, and she's working on those things. But when I see a change in her and the effort being given, it makes me so much more open to the possibility and the reality that maybe there's something here. Maybe there's something better. And I see that in her, because she could tell me till I'm blue in the face, but a lot of times as a dude, at the end of the day, like, I don't want to keep hearing it, right? And
right.
Wall goes up, and that's the default, the stonewalling and stuff like that. But when I see the effort and I see her doing something different, that softens my heart, and it makes me want to give a similar effort. So
That's so good. And we had the privilege of walking with a few folks while you guys were in our program before you graduated, where there were individuals working on their marriage alone.
Mhm.
And so they're pretty amazing people. I'm hoping to get one of their interviews real soon, or maybe even both. We'll see. And just to even answer a little bit more, Natalia, it's your husband realizes that things aren't the way they should be. And whether he's ready for help or not, that remains to be seen. But to come at him sometimes, maybe Elise could come at Ryan and say, we need to fix it now. You guys might have a different relationship. And Elise, I love you. That's great. I'm so glad that that's how it worked out. But for a lot of men, they can't receive it that way, the way Ryan could from you. And sometimes it takes coming alongside, and maybe he's just simply not ready. But either way, we do work with couples. We do work with the one. And Elise, you guys are both spot on. If one changes and one gets healthy, the marriage has to get healthier.
Yeah.
The dynamic is different.
There's power in prayer too. Do not ever stop praying, because God is not done, and He's still
and get others with you praying for them as well.
Yeah, it softens your heart too. Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm.
So catch us up. So we want to know kind of how is it now? Like what's the day in your life like, and how are you guys feeling in terms of, where are you kind of living at on a day-to-day on your emotional home, so to speak?
Yeah, I would say it's night and day different between 3 months ago and now. But I will add to that, like we've had bumps along the way for sure. Even just like 2 weeks ago, I think we had a really rough couple of days, and like I always call that, predictable opposition. As followers of Christ, anytime there's growth, there's movement towards better, you're coming closer to Christ, closer to the beautiful covenant marriage that God has intended and designed for you. Like the enemy hates that, and he wants to dig his heels in and stick a fork in there and twist it. And so like we experience that. It's ongoing, and that's just something that we have to recognize is going to be there. And so you find ways to battle back against that, through prayer and things like that. But we've definitely had bumps along the way, but all in all, it's night and day different. I think for me, which this goes really hand in hand with the superhero exercise thing that I did, was just trying to be much more aware, and to have better vision, and vision not just for myself, but vision for Elise and for her needs, and how I can be more supportive, and how she needs me to also recognize her and put into action some of those love languages that speak to her, and how for so long I just completely neglected those, and for me, because I'm a dude, sometimes I have to fight extra hard in those ways, but recognizing that, man, like it's better when I'm doing those things, and besides it, it's just better. It's just right. Like I should be doing those things. That's what God has called me to do as the husband, as the spiritual leader of the household. And so I don't know, for me, like it's been night and day. God has done some cool things in me in terms of bringing and drawing to the forefront of my mind, some of those things that I need to be more intentional about. Whereas before it was just kind of like, out of sight, out of mind, like just non-existent, not aware, just kind of out there floundering and doing my own thing, really, and operating within myself. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think back, and then to think, where would we be now? Certainly not in this room talking about this had we not taken the right steps. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How about for you, Elise? Where were you emotionally, and how about now?
Calloused and done is where I was.
Mm-hmm.
And now, we're speaking the same language. We're talking and we're communicating differently. And we've seen what it's like when it's bad. And we've also now seen what it's like when it's good. Mm. And so we can use that as, man, we're slipping kind of back to where we don't want to be. Let's come back forward. And so we're both, at that place where we can say that to each other, understand it's been bad, it's been good, let's go back to good. So
Yes.
great.
And that's so awesome. And that's
love
the
that.
power of coaching, when you can learn to coach yourselves out of the ruts and back to where you can be because you've been there. And the tools that you guys have, and just the humility that you've had shown up, just be like, you know what, we don't, we need help, and tell us what to do. And so we just love that about you guys. And so what are we looking forward to in terms of the future in your marriage, in your family, with your ministry? Now that you got this at home where you've got these tools, what's next for you guys?
I think God has presented so many opportunities in the recent where we are speaking on behalf of marriages, and we are speaking in a way where we can say we've been there, and be able to say, we absolutely understand, and there's a better way to do it. And we're saying that not because we're holy and we're pastors and we have everything figured out, but because we've been where you are. And so for people to understand that even the pastor and his wife struggle in marriage says that everybody struggles in marriage. And so it's almost like a relief for people sometimes to hear that we're supposed to and mess up, and it's okay for us to say that to them and to share that with them, that we've been there. And so just the opportunities we meet with couples or people, and it's just like God is just shining a light so brightly on marriages and how important they really are, and how much we need to nurture them and take care of them, has been, and I think will continue to be, something that God is going to use. In the horribleness that it was, He gets to turn beauty from ashes. So we're just excited for that piece of it. We're excited that our kids have gotten to see what real relationship looks like and how you can.
Amen.
So.
I love that. I love that. What would you guys say is like the biggest takeaway that you'd want for the people listening tonight to understand?
I would say this, and this, maybe this is going to come across as the pastor heart in me, but really, honestly, genuinely, I don't know how, like when I think about, this, just even the title of this, From Hopeless to Hopeful, like, I don't know how you find hope in any situation apart from Christ. And so I have found, even in all of this, that it has pushed me and forced me to be even more intentional in my relationship with Christ. And because if that is out of alignment, then there's no way my marriage, my working relationships, as a dad, as a son, as a friend, all of those things are out of alignment if I'm not calibrated in with where I need to be spiritually. So to me, I think that's been the biggest takeaway. Is it's so easy, especially as a dude, to compartmentalize all the different parts of your life, and then when you really come down to it and you realize how, man, if that one thing is out of line, it affects every area and throws everything just for a complete loop. And so, and honestly, like for me, the biggest takeaway is for me to have the strongest, healthiest marriage that I can have, for me to have the strongest, healthiest relationship with my children that I can have and others, I have to be seeking Christ every day, a conscious every morning decision to wake up and choose again every day, choose Christ. Because if I'm going towards anything other than that, I'm going to be tripped up and all out of whack. And so I think that's been the biggest takeaway for me, but also, second to that, that it is possible, even when things seem like they're too far out of reach, or you can't get to that goal of having, a marriage that you should have, because there's so many things and it's so hard to see through the muck and the mire of the situation in the moment. But it really truly can happen. You can have that, you can do that. And it's hard work and it's intentionality. But it can happen for anyone. It can happen.
Good word. Elise, do you have anything to add on that?
I would basically say everything that he said, except for it's not the pastor coming out in us. I don't want anybody to ever think that the reason that we keep pointing people back to Christ is because that's our job.
Right.
It's because that is life. Like, that's at the end of the day, if he worked at a factory and I worked at Walmart or something like that, that truth would still be the foundation of your marriage and the foundation of your life, or it should be, because like he said, if that is out of whack, then nothing else is going in the right direction. And so, not from a pastor's perspective, but from somebody who says, this is my life and this is what my life needs to be going towards, is Christ and Christ alone, then everything else falls into place. And so that is truth. That is truth. And I can't reiterate that anymore. That's so important. And so, when God works on you, everything else just becomes so clear. And we rejoice when God lights up an area in our life that we need to work on, or we should, because he loves us too much to leave us the same. And that means on the other side of that painful thing that he had to light up in our life, on the other side of it, we're going to be a better person for it. And so we rejoice in those moments, because on the other side, we are going to be refined in that area, and God's going to use it.
Amen.
So good. So good. You guys, seeing Christ in you and being formed even more in you. We really believe that so many people expect the marriage to do what only God can do, which is that ultimate fulfillment, that unconditional love, that forgiveness that is found only in Christ. And when we expect our husband or wife to do that, we're going to be disappointed every time. So when we can get filled up with him, then out of the overflow, the marriage can thrive. And so we have our program at Turnaround Marriages, a personal discipleship cleverly disguised as a marriage turnaround, because we do believe that the marriage is a beautiful place where God can chisel away the stuff in us that is ugly. And he does it every day over and over again, because like you said, Elise, he does love us so much. So what would you say to those people out there that might be watching now or later that are hesitant to book a call? They don't know if this might work for them. Should they take the risk? What would you say to those people out there?
I would say there's zero risk involved, because if you're making any effort to make your marriage better, that's not a risk. That's a win. And so if somebody is saying, I value this marriage enough to make a step towards something better, that's a win. And so why would we continue to stay stagnant without movement? So make a step, because if you don't, you will stay stagnant and or go backwards. And so any forward progress is forward progress. And so, the coolest thing is when you decide that it's worth it, God shows up and he does cool things. And it's so quick, and it's so quick to see that it doesn't have to be this every day we've got just a little tiny step, but sometimes it's massive monumental things, and you're like, whoa. And I love having to celebrate and having to come up with, at first I was like, this is gonna be so hard to come up with a celebration every day. But then I was like, wait a minute, that is forcing us to find the good, because not every day is good, and you're going to have those moments and those bumps. But when you're going, find the good, find the joy, find the positive, you're forcing yourself to move out from the negative and see the positive, and it is there. And so I would just say, why would you wait? Why would you wait to make forward progress?
And I'll add just one thing to that. When you do finally take that step, and then the next day, it seems like the wheels are falling off, or the car's breaking, like whatever is going on, because you're taking, again, it's that predictable opposition. Like just have the fortitude to get up and keep going, right? Because like we went to a conference one time on prayer, and they said the number one reason why people stop prayer, like they're really adamant, they're positive, they wake up every morning early, they spend time in prayer, and they're going good for like a week and a half, and then one morning the alarm doesn't go off, and they don't wake up, and they miss it. And most people will go, oh, see, I was doing so good, and I missed it once, so I failed, and I'm done. Just get up the next day and keep going. And because so many people, they stop at the first sign of adversity, or the first sign of trouble, or the first day they missed out on doing the module or the reading, or whatever that is. And so don't stop. Just like just pick it up the next day. Just keep going. It's not a failure. It's a process.
Yeah. You're so right. Guys, I thank you so much for wanting to share so transparently of your story. I just pray that anybody out there tonight that's hearing this, it would be greatly encouraged of how radically things can change in a short amount of time, how God is able to do far more than we could ask or imagine. And we are privileged to be able to, we were privileged to be able to walk that with you. And we're also privileged to walk that with many other couples and individuals that are working on their marriage too. And it's our joy to be able to partner with the Lord and partner with them as God brings about transformation in a powerful way. So I again, just want to honor you guys. You're amazing people. I'm so glad we get to know you. We'll meet in person one day, Lord willing. We're hoping for that. Yes. And so I just want to share for anybody that's out there and you're wondering, okay, well, how do we get started? What you do is just go to turnaroundmarriage.com/call, pick a time that works, fill out a short questionnaire. We'll hop on the phone and we'll spend about 45 minutes to an hour diving into what's not working in your marriage right now, where you hope it can go. In other words, what God designed this marriage to be, and a path to get there. And if I can help you to get from where you're stuck to where that is, I'm absolutely going to make that path clear. If there's something better, I'm going to point you that way. Either way, you're going to get clarity about exactly what you need to do next to get back the marriage you're hoping for. So make sure you do that soon. Turnaroundmarriage.com/call. Anything you want to add, Rach?
I just want to say one last question for you guys. Is it fair to say we don't have to rehash the past, and it doesn't have to take forever to get a turnaround in your marriage that lasts?
Oh, for sure. I think one of the things for me as a guy who, like, I love to see results. Like, I like to see the process, but I ultimately, like, I want to see results. I think one of the things for me was, man, like, I don't want this to be a long process and to have to go dig into the past and, okay, when I was a kid, how did my parents, all that stuff. And I think it's important to realize that, but like honestly, like finding that we could kind of get that alignment back in our lives and our marriage so quickly was one of the things that was one of the greatest blessings, I think, of this program to me is sometimes it's daunting to have something that far out on the horizon ahead of you. But to know that, no, that's like in the foreground, you can do that now, and it doesn't take that much, was super encouraging for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, you guys, thank you all for sharing so much. Elise and Ryan, thank you. And blessings to Catalyst Church, your family. And we know God is going to continue to use you to spread the gospel. And that is our heart, is that as we help people turn their marriages around, then that becomes then a gospel outpouring where who knows how many lives are going to be changed. And so if you're out there, you can go to turnaroundmarriage.com/call, book the call with Scott. He will rock your world and he will love you and serve you to the truth. And thanks again for everyone joining us. We'll see you next time on our next edition of Turnaround Marriage Live.
Thank you, Ryan, Elise. God bless you guys.
Welcome. Bye.